Are you an outside of the box thinker? Do you always believe things can be better? Do you often spend most of your time thinking about the future? Or maybe you ask the question, why do people never seem to fully understand my ideas? You might be a creative. The creative voice is fascinating, and they're going to see what the rest of us miss. The creative has the ability to impact the growth of an organization and dream up ideas or solutions the rest of us could never imagine on our own. They're drawn to new trends, ideas, and technology. And they're the voice that creates the things that alter the future of communities, businesses, and families. Creatives are very principled people who operate with a high degree of integrity and authenticity and always seek to align with what they care about and what they say with what they actually do. Hi, I'm Sarah, and welcome to my channel where I share tips on how you can become a 100x leader. I've partnered with GiANT Worldwide to help you get 100% leadership healthy so you can build on your natural and develop talents and abilities to help you both function and thrive as a leader in your home, your business, and your community. Together, we can raise the standard of leadership around the globe. And as a 100x leader, our job is to bring the best out of people and be willing to fight for the highest possible good of those we lead. However, we can't give what we don't possess. We need to know ourselves, to lead ourselves, and work on our mindset so we have the awareness to notice our tendencies and become intentional in our actions so that we become a leader worth following. The best leaders are self-aware leaders. And besides, wouldn't it be great to know what other people experience on the other side of you? One of the ways you can become self-aware is to know your leadership voice and know the strengths that you bring and learn how to truly appreciate and value what other people bring to the table. If you watch all of my videos on each of the 5 voices in this series, you'll be able to identify your foundational leadership voice. And out of the 5, you'll have one that is at the core of who you are and how you communicate with the world. And in this video, you'll be able to take away something practical that you learned and that you can work on. But before we take a deep dive into the characteristics of the creative voice, you should know that your voice is made up of all 5 of the voices: the nurturer, creative, guardian, connector, and pioneer. And what people experience on the other side of you every day is actually a complex mix of all 5. You're not just a nurturer, you're not just a pioneer. And it's important to understand that you're not defined by one, you are all 5. But some of the voices are more natural to us than others. You have a foundation of voice that's your nature, your hardwiring, and the others are learned behavior that we've adapted to over time. All right, so let's dive in, and I'd love to share the creative voice for you in a little bit more detail. So to start off, the creative voice is the voice that people often struggle to understand the most. They're the out-of-the-box thinkers, and they can reframe a question in a way that no one else would have even looked at or have seen. Creatives can see how the world can be different or how complex problems can be solved in truly unique ways. Because no one else can see what the creative's seeing, there are times when the creative will speak and everyone wonders whether they've been in the same conversation. As a result, you'll find that even though there's genius in the creative voice, in most teams and organizations, the creative voice gets crushed and they don't get to bring their best because they're not fully understood. But they, of all the voices, have the greatest potential to game change your business or your organization. They function as an early warning radar system, often seeing opportunities and dangers long before everyone else. Every creative I know is standing on tiptoes, looking out into the future, scanning the horizon for what's coming. They're thinking, what are the new trends and ideas? And this can be a great benefit for your business or a team, is that they see opportunity long before anyone else does. They also see a threat that's coming from competitors or disruptive technologies. Some great questions for a creative are, what is it that I need to be worried about 3 years from now? What's the opportunity that we're going to miss if we don't start planning now? Creatives love that sort of work because their brain is always thinking in that way. And the other thing is that they're an early warning system based on values and integrity, because the creative voice is always the one who sees first the disconnect between what we say we're going to deliver to our employees or our clients to what we're actually going to deliver. I don't know if you've ever heard about, back in the old days, the little canary bird that coal miners used to send down into the mine to see if carbon monoxide levels were okay for humans. Well, if they sent it down and the canary flew back, they would say, okay, you guys are fine, go ahead and head on down. But if the canary didn't return, they'd say, okay, we need to wait a little bit longer before we send anybody down. So creatives are a bit like the canary as well. They'll go into a new department and a new environment, and they'll pick up on if something isn't quite right or if a person isn't being as genuine as people think they really are. This is a gift for any team or organization, the gift of being that early warning radar and not delivering to clients the things that we promised we would. They also can tell us if we're violating some of those core values that we say is important to us as a team or organization. Another thing that you should know about the creative is if the vision is compelling, the word can't is not in their vocabulary. Once they see a vision of what could be, no one is going to stop them from going after it. It is that compelling sense, that internal urge to say, this is what I see could be, and I'm willing to give my time, my talent, and my vision to make it happen. However, creatives often struggle with the fact that people never seem to fully understand their ideas. The creative voice is my foundational leadership voice. And for those of you who have it as your first voice, will remember times in life when you share something and everyone looks at you strangely and says, I have no idea what you just said, but I'm sure it was helpful. Thank you for that. And then 3 months later, someone else comes along and says, we should do this. And everyone else says, that's an awesome idea. And you say, well, hang on, I said that 3 months ago. And everyone else says, well, you think you might have said that, but that's not what we heard. I think every creative wrestles with that frustration. I always say that what the creative says first is rarely what they mean. So if you judge a creative on the first thing that they say out loud, you might think that they're slightly strange. But I want you to remember that creatives only speak when they have something to say. And that's not the same for every voice. So if you kind of pull out some clarifying questions, and about third or fourth question in, you'll find this little nugget of gold and you say, oh my gosh, that's genius. Why didn't you say that before? And us creatives will say, well, I thought I did. Another thing that a creative does really well is exhibit a strong social conscience and desire for personal and organizational integrity. Another thing that a creative does really well is exhibit a strong social conscience and desire for personal and organizational integrity. Some really great questions that creatives bring into perspective are things like, how are we being more than just a unit of profitable production? Are we making a difference? Are we having some degree of corporate and social responsibility? And what are we doing for our local community? They're really good at just kind of discovering what it's like to be on the outside of us. However, something that is a challenge for creatives is that they are internal perfectionists. They can often fail to celebrate the 90% that has been achieved and instead focus on the 10% that hasn't. They almost always live with a sense of disappointment because what they saw in their mind was so unbelievable and incredible and perfect, and it never really translates exactly into the external world that has to deal with people, that it messes up their perfect vision. So you'll often find that immature creatives are hard to work for because when you're ready to celebrate the achievements and making goals, an immature creative says, but wait, what about the 10% that we haven't done yet? And then wah, wah. Energy goes out of the room, right? The reality is it's never going to be 100%. So if the creatives are not careful, they're never going to be satisfied because it's never quite as perfect as it was in their head. And an interesting fact about the creatives is that only 9% of the population speaks creative as their first voice. But they're not the rarest voice, as you'll find out in one of our other videos. Creatives are multifaceted and they can function well in any role. And you'll often find them overrepresented in academia, design, technology, not-for-profits, and places for conceptual modeling like theoretical physics and math. It's almost like creatives gravitate to other creatives because they like to speak fluent creative to each other. As I mentioned earlier, I want you to walk away with something practical and relevant that you can begin to use when you're finished watching this video. So let me talk to you about what we call the leadership insights. And for each voice, what we've done is basically taken 8 statements, which will describe some growth or learning opportunities. So for the creative, those insights are, number 1, learn to celebrate the win, even if the result wasn't quite as perfect as you'd hoped. 2, when members of your team critique your vision and ask for the details, they're genuinely trying to help. 3, don't play safe. Give yourself permission to think outside the box. 4, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. It comes with the territory of being creative and using your imagination. 5, what you see as an imminent opportunity or threat may actually be further away than you think. 6, financial realities are important. Good enough may have to be good enough sometimes. 7, people are not deliberately ignoring your ideas. It's hard to truly hear a creative sometimes. 8, you don't have to prove your worth to others. Just relax and trust the unique contribution you bring. I hope that maybe some of those seem relevant to you in some way. So now, if you were going to choose one to take away, what would you choose? Don't overwhelm yourself and try to work on all of those all at once, but just focus on the one that you feel most represents right where you are. All right, so let's sum it all up. Creatives are the champions of innovation and the future. All right, it's time to sum it all up. Creatives are champions of innovation and the future. They're conceptual architects and love to think outside of the box. They're never satisfied with the status quo. They inherently believe things can always be better. And if the vision is compelling, the word can't is not in their vocabulary. But because they're future-oriented and think outside the box, they often struggle with the fact that people never seem to fully understand their ideas. Creatives need to watch out for struggling to communicate effectively and have idealistic and perfectionist tendencies. So if you have a creative in your life and you want to know how to empower them, don't judge them on what they say first. Help them to communicate their ideas and let them know it's okay to be wrong sometimes. So guys, that's my best attempt to describe the creative leadership voice. Check out the rest of my videos on each of the 5 voices and discover your foundational leadership voice. And out of the 5, you'll have the one that is core to who you are and how you communicate with the world. I want you to build confidence in using your foundational leadership voice. And I want you to learn to value and appreciate the other voices of those you lead. You can also find out your leadership voice by taking a free assessment by clicking on the link below. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. Well, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.